Welcome to the T-Bird Zone, streamed every week on SUUTbirds.com and SUUnews.com. We're in studio with head women's basketball coach J.R. Payne. We'll be previewing this year's basketball season. Coach, the season really already underway. The team's 1-4.
Yep.
A couple of really close games. And what's your take on the season as it's gone so far?
Well, considering a lot of the adversity we faced so far with injuries and such, I'm really excited that we've even been in the close games. 3 of our first 5 games have come down to one possession, 1 point games, and which is just remarkable with all the young kids that we have. So I'm really, really proud of how we've done. I feel like with those close games, we easily could be 3-2, which would feel a lot better.
Right.
As competitive people, we all want to win, and those 1 point losses are just devastating. But it's a process, and so I feel good about where we are.
Okay. Well, you talked about the young players that are on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Newhouse had found that the team's the 4th youngest team in the nation. With really, you have 1 junior on the squad, and then underclassmen.
Everybody's young pups, we call them.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about several of those games coming down to that last possession.
Mm-hmm.
And in the coaches' luncheon yesterday, held every Monday, you talked about how it's your freshman point guard that the mantle is on her. That it's up to her to take that last shot.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, Haley Mandelko is her name. She's a freshman point guard, as you said, from little town in Nebraska, and she's just a tremendous, tremendous player. She's just going to have a phenomenal career here. But she's our sort of our best offensive weapon right now. She's got great court vision. She understands the game really well. So yes, in those 3 games that have come down to the wire, we've put the ball in her hands 3 times. The first time was at Santa Clara, and her shot went about as far down as it could go before it came out. So she just barely missed that game winner. And then the second one, she was double teamed and dished to somebody for an open shot. But the third one, she did put it in. And but she's tremendous, and we told her after the first one, you're going to take a lot of game-winning shots, and we'd rather have the ball in her hands than anyone else's. So.
Well, Mandelko, the leading scorer so far on the team this year.
Yep.
Who are some of the other freshmen that really stood out for you this year?
Well, Brennan Gates is a 6'4" freshman from a little town in Northern California, and she was tremendous. Her first game, in fact, I think she had 17 points in 17 minutes, which was a pretty good, coming out party. And she's sort of been up and down like most freshmen, but this past weekend had a couple good games. And then Markel Funk has been great for us. Now she's injured, but has been really good for us these first few games. So several that have done really well.
Well, and you mentioned Markel Funk being injured, and a lot of these freshmen getting a lot of playing time because of the injury bug that's really bitten the team. There's 2 players who are now out for the year.
Yep.
A third that's, who knows,
sort of wait
upon
and see.
her return, right? Is this one of obviously this isn't one of the years where you're, as a coaching staff, you go in, man, I hope we get a lot of injuries so our young players can get a lot of experience. But do you see this paying off long term?
Absolutely, yeah, it does. And we just, as a staff and just as an individual, I really feel like things work out the way they're meant to be. And these injuries, you never want them to happen, but they happen for a reason. And you're right, these young kids are playing considerably more, than they would have had everyone been healthy. So yeah, and just, when everybody comes back in a year or so, when everyone is healthy, we'll be that much better for it.
It seems that the injuries are your wing players, your 2s and 3s. Is there a potential of maybe going with a bigger lineup where you have maybe one of your 4s going out to play a 3? Is there discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. And as soon as Markel went down and we found out that it was for the season, we sort of already decided that we're going to have to move our 4 to the 3. And we still have wings that can play, but that will just give us some added depth. And it'll allow us to really use our length and our size inside as well.
Okay. One of the benefits, again, there aren't a whole lot of benefits with injuries, but there's the extra playing time.
Yep.
One of the assistant coaches, 2 new assistant coaches this year,
yep.
both relatively in game shape. They're able to participate in
Very
practices.
good, yes.
Talk about the additions of your 2 new assistants.
Well, we have Caitlin Sears, who was a great 4-year starter here at SUU, 1,000-point scorer, graduated last year. She's phenomenal on a ton of different fronts. But one is the fact that she can still step in and play. She already knows all of our offensive sets. She knows everything. But she's been great, has great rapport with the girls, being that they were teammates. And then we have Nicole Ryan, who was also a great player, came from American University, who doesn't play a ton. She had some pretty serious injuries throughout her career,
Okay.
but she's been tremendous with our guard play and helped them really develop so far this season.
You have one commitment so far for next season.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about her a little bit?
Basha Klein is a 5'11" sort of swing player, plays kind of the 2-3-4. From Santa Margarita Catholic School down in Southern California. She's kind of a lot like Caitlin Sears, actually runs really hard, plays really hard. She's a great rebounder. She can shoot it. She's, I think, going to be a really great addition, especially with our sort of injuries at the wing.
Excellent. The conference season opens at Oral Roberts this weekend.
Yep.
They are the conference favorite with the preseason player of the year and Kevy Looper. What's the expectations of this team? Again, we've talked about the injuries. What's the expectations going into the conference season?
Well, we always have very high expectations. I don't think they've changed any, being that we're injured. And we've always sort of taken the stance with this young team, even before the injuries, that we're so young, we don't even know any better, And so to go into Oral Roberts, who is the preseason favorite, they've got 2 or 3 first-team all-league preseason kids. They're a tremendous team. I'm hoping that our young players will say, Oral who? They won't know any different. And we'll just go in and play kind of fearlessly the way we have these first 5 games and hopefully, have a lot of success.
What's the focus of the team as far as, is it, you would expect a balance between the offensive and defensive side of the ball, but is there a particular side that the team is especially paying attention to during this season?
I don't think so. I think we always try to keep a pretty healthy balance between the two. One area that we've really focused on is transition offense, which has always sort of been our thing. Now with limited numbers, we might have to scale back a little bit, but that's always the very first focus of our offense, and then rebounding. Because when you don't have a ton of depth, you can't afford to give up 2 or 3 shots of possession. So kind of all of it.
Okay, excellent. Well, as always, we appreciate you coming in. And you've been watching the T-Bird Zone. Again, you can watch this every week on SUUTbirds.com and SUUnews.com. Once again, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next week.